Hey guys, and welcome back to it now for something a little bit different. As usual, I am back. Yes, I took a vacation. I'm not,
Stranger danger!
I
Stranger
know it wasn't
danger!
a real vacation, guys. It was more of like I just needed some time to just chillax, if you know what I'm saying. My brain was fried. Work has been driving me insane, and I just needed a couple weeks to kind of get my shit together, if you will. But luckily, Mr. Korean Cool here. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you,
Was here
buddy. Good seeing you again.
holding down the fort, man, dropping some episode. He dropped an episode for you last week talking about Shorzy, which is awesome because now I found a new show to get hooked onto, and uh, and he's dropping another bomb for you tomorrow, which I can't wait for you guys to watch. So thank you, sir, for holding down the fort for me.
Oh, my pleasure.
And it's so great to be back today, guys, because today we're tackling a world renowned filmmaker, a guy that he's a guy that's just been around for a long time at this point, and he's just hammering just one good film after another. I can honestly say I've seen most of his filmography, not everything, but the majority, and I haven't seen a bad film yet. Now, there are a couple of films that are absolutely mind blowing, and there are a couple of films that are just good or great. Um, I can't wait to share my thoughts on this one and as well as get your thoughts. Today, we're going to talk about Mr. Park Chan-Wook, and we're going to be talking about a film from 2022 called Decision to Leave. This was a choice by Mr. Korean Cool over here, so I'm very curious to get into that. But before we do, I figured we would just do a quick recap here, folks, about what we've been watching or reading or just consuming in general. So, what have you been up to, Mr. Korean Cool? Have you caught anything good or?
Dude, like I don't know what it is about real life, and it kind of goes to a saying I have, right? I always tell my kids this, I tell friends this, right? Life is easy. People make it hard.
Absolutely.
And, bottom line is, the audience knows, lock your damn car doors, you know, be vigilant because wife's car got stolen. We recovered it, but what a pain in the ass that was,
I
right?
can only imagine.
Outside of that, I'll tell you what I was pleasantly surprised by. Son hit me up one night and said, hey, dad, you keep saying Faku Laka a lot. What? He's like, is that from that movie you were talking about? I was like, yeah. He's like, can we watch it? We sat down and watched Big Man on Campus again, of course.
Nice,
And
nice.
he loved it. So it was like home run.
Win, nice score. Very cool.
Absolutely. I guess the issue right now is right when stuff goes public domain like Mickey Mouse, Popeye the Sailor, blah blah blah. I guess you can kind of know where I'm going with this, right? So
I have an idea. I have an idea.
watched a couple of those schlock movies and then finally just broke down and watched Popeye the Slayer Man.
The title alone feels like it should be good, but I'm hearing a lot, and I'm definitely curious to see. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
No, it's good because that's what I was looking for in watching that movie. Like, please God, somebody interrupt me for something even more better than this. Because holy crap, dude. How yeah, oh my God. Oh, it was not good.
No,
Not great. Not good. I tell you what, if you're gonna make, let's put it this way. When you try to make blood look like blood,
yeah.
it is not a bright orange or a metallic red bronze color. It's like, come on, people, do better with your special effects. I get it, but what have you.
Oh no.
Outside of that, I'm not going to talk about it until we get to the end of the movie, but I don't know why, but I ended
Uh,
up watching this like little romantic comedy, and I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm
uh,
not, it's not my wheelhouse per
sure.
se, but I loved it because it was brilliant. It was British. It was funny. Um, and like, well, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. Yeah, John, you mentioned it, right,
Yeah.
folks? So, by the time you see this, the episode would have already dropped. But watched another movie called Rye Lane, and just like I said, loved it. The one of the main actors there, David Johnson. He's actually in a new movie that just came out. I think some folks have checked out already. I still have to try and get out there and see it. The Long Walk. He's one of the two main cast characters in that movie. It's great. Outside of that, uh, trying to binge watch a show that the wife and I had started called Blind Spot with Jamie Alexander.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I definitely remember the name, the title. Yeah.
yeah, it started off great, and now it's like, holy what the Fakulaka. Will you guys get to a really good story lane? What the hell? Pick a lane, stick with it. Come on. Outside of that, doing a little bit more reading of my, from my author, Terry Brooks. I mentioned him
Okay.
back in our
Yeah.
episode with Toxic Avenger. And just, trying to find that little bit of time when life allows it between work, real life crap, car getting stolen. What the frick,
Yeah.
people?
God damn
Um,
it, people.
I know, and some bad movies, which I was kind of in the mood for. Like, throw
Yeah.
me the worst movies you got, because my past experience says the worse the movie is, the more awesome it should be.
Yeah.
I was sorely wrong this past week. So.
Real quick before I move on to what I've been watching, I will say like it's cool that these things are going into public domain, but I don't understand. So I didn't see the second Winnie the Pooh movie, but I saw the first horror movie. Absolute fucking garbage. Like to
Yeah,
the point where you can't make fun of it because it's bad garbage. It's just absolute garbage. Same thing with this Popeye the Slayer movie, which is why I think I've been resistant to seeing it. I haven't seen it yet because I've been hearing nothing but what you just said.
yeah,
And normally I just kind of make up my own mind on things, but I don't understand these filmmakers. They have this idea of like, they have this property and they're like, hey, let's shoehorn it into a horror movie, which I don't have a problem with shoehorning into a horror movie. But just because you have access to this property, you still have to make a film that people are going to like. Even if
right.
it's even if it's like a full moon type film or a Troma esque or a Roger Corman esque type film, you still have to provide entertainment. You don't have to provide anything thought provoking or something meaningful,
Right.
but you do have to entertain your audience.
And
You
I
know,
think that's what like hurts the most, is because as much as our last couple episodes and a couple, we want folks to do the independent stuff, right? We need more independent filmmakers out there. And like you said, just because you have, let's put it this way, right? I would have given Popeye the Slayer Man a little more forgiveness if I had just one.
I didn't
Didn't
even
even
have
have that
that.
fucking thing. I
Oh my
didn't even have
god!
that fucking laugh going on.
Did Alvaro show
Oh
up or
God,
Wimpy
you know what?
or
Yeah,
Brutus?
no,
God
no,
damn
and
it!
that's what I was looking for. I was looking for Brutus to make appearance, so I could like, Brutus, please this time whoop his ass, because God Almighty,
That would
help
have been
me.
that would have been like a great third act like pop up. All of a sudden, Brutus comes along and like defends the kids or
Yeah,
whatever, and he like they've repositioned him as like the hero now,
yeah,
like they did with Cobra Kai, where they kind of like
yeah,
all of a sudden he becomes the
yeah,
the guy that you didn't understand.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
But yeah, it's been wild. But yeah, enough of that.
So I didn't get a ton of stuff in, believe it or not. You would think I did, but I didn't. Some of it, like, so I started reading the book called A Man Named Ove,
Mm.
which is, they've turned it into A Man Named Otto with Tom Hanks. Eventually, I want to talk about A Man Named Ove, the movie on our channel, so I don't want to talk about the book. But I started reading the book. I did see, speaking of David Johansen, last week I saw The Long Walk. If it's possible at all to squeeze that into your time frame with everything else going on, I would definitely recommend it. That is a great film. I think Jose and Mike actually dropped their episode today about it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that.
yeah, it's basically, like the whole idea of like the Big Brother world kind of concept. Basically, Big Brother is taken over, things have gone to shit, government controls everything, but you can apply if you're a young man to this long walk. Basically, you apply to it, they pick 50 people. The last person to survive gets a wish and I guess basically a boatload of money. And it's based off Stephen King when he was under the pen name Richard Bachman, I want to say. It's kind of like in the sense that there are some horrific elements to it, but I would say it's more akin to Shawshank Redemption at Pupil. Tell you what, man, it's a fucking great film. You got Judy
Mm.
Greer in a very small role. You got the guy you were talking about, Mr. David Johansen, who is one of the primary leads. He's absolutely great. Cooper Hoffman, which of course is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son in it. Ben Wang, who is the new Karate Kid. He has a really funny part. Amazing, amazing film. Probably, I don't do top tens, but if I did a top 10, it would have to be somewhere in that top 10 for the year. So definitely check that out. Followed that up with a film I saw yesterday called A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, which I guess is kind of a romantic drama comedy. And it's basically two actors that I really, really like a lot. I love Colin Farrell. And then it's got Margaret Robbie. Basically, these two meet at a wedding. They get in their cars, and oddly enough, they rent the car from the same place. And they have like this weird GPS that says, "Would you like to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey?" Um, that's what it says to both of them on their cars. Don't do it. Stop taking the drug and your GPS won't talk to you. Basically, yeah, it's kind of like a fantasy film in that element, obviously. They have chemistry. They both have also been through drama and trauma in their life. They've both been through a lot of bad romances. They both have their baggage. They both, I like the fact that they both been through the shit. It's not your typical romantic comedy where it's just like, la di da di da, two people meet, there's a crisis in the middle, they come together at the end and happy ending. I mean, not to spoil it, it does have a happy ending, but there's a journey along the way. And it's basically a story of these people that are able to relive key moments in their past. So on this journey on the car with this GPS, they stop at different places and there's a door. This door will just pop up. They open the door and basically they're reliving moments in their life.
That's why you don't open that door.
Well, you don't know what you're going to get involved. You don't know what those moments are. Some of them might be not horrible moments. Some of them might not be good moments. But yeah, if you're gonna relive good moments, remember the Murphy's Law. For every good, there's a bad. For every cause, there's an effect.
Yep.
So there are some good moments they relive, but there's also some bad moments. I like it. Like I said, I've always been a big fan of Colin Farrell. I think he was one of those guys that early on got labeled kind of like Brad Pitt did. Early on, if you look at Brad Pitt's career, he got labeled as the pretty boy. And, he's 61 years old, and some people still call him the pretty boy. But you know what? He's also a really, really good actor. And same thing with Colin Farrell, man. Like, yeah, he's made a couple stinkers. But if you look at most actors' careers, most actors have made a couple stinkers. I remember a movie he did like years ago. I think it's called Welcome to Tigerland, or maybe no, it was called Tigerland. It was about Vietnam, about him, some guy that got drafted. He didn't want to go. A fantastic film. But he's done a lot of stuff. Like The Penguin, I still can't get over the makeup and prosthetics they did, the range that he showed when you think of Colin Farrell. But if you really look at his resume over the last, 20 years in particular, there's a lot of good stuff in that filmography. There really is. And honestly, same thing with Margaret Robbie, when she fully made her big debut, let's face it, she was the bombshell. She was the girl in the Wolf of Wall Street. And it would have been easy just to ride that train and do roles just like that. And not mind, she did a couple roles where she was playing the bombshell. But since then, she's also proven herself and she showed a lot of range. And that is something that impresses me, because if you're a young female that's attractive, or even a young guy, it's easy to ride the easy roles, right? It's easy to get typecast. It's easy to collect the paychecks. But then what happens in your career is 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, let's face it, your looks will eventually grow. No matter how much plastic surgery you do, I know it's shocking, but the looks will eventually go. And then you're left in that situation where, what are you going to do? You're going to either play the mom or the grandmother roles, or you're going to be out of work, So she was smart, and she started picking some roles with substance. Now, not every role she picks has substance to it. So yeah, that was pretty much what I've been up to as far as the movie theaters. I haven't really seen a lot of stuff beyond that. I did a rewatch of Superman again because that just got dropped on Max, and I love that film. The more I watch that film, the more it ranks my rankings with my love of Superman films. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me as far as
Sweet.
So that brings us to 2022 with Mr. Park Chan-Wook here. So yeah, this came out in 2022. It was directed by Mr. Park Chan-Wook, a gentleman who helms from South Korea. His films, often blend crime, mystery, and thrillers with other genres. He's a pretty prolific filmmaker. I think part of the reason, in my opinion, he's a prolific filmmaker is he really does some interesting stuff. There are films of his that I love more than others, but even the lesser films, I think he's very talented, and I think he has this ability to really display that talent in different ways. And he doesn't just stick with one thing, you know what I mean? Which is something I respect a lot. I'm just curious, before we start the actual conversation, like when it comes to his filmography, have you seen everything, or do you have anything that, like, any highlights from his filmography that they're more connect with you more, or that are more standout?
Park Chan-Wook is, Old Boy definitely is right up there. While he wasn't like definitively like behind the lens or steering the ship, but knowing that he was the producer on the Snowpiercer with Chris Evans back then, that was kind of crazy to see kind of his like, I know he would have like dropped some hints. It's like, hey, Iniwa, I tell you what to do. you
Yeah.
know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's another one called, I think it was called The Handmaiden. That was a good
Oh,
one.
that's awesome. I love
Yeah,
that
The
movie.
Handmaiden. What am I excited about is in I think next month,
His new
Park
movie,
Chan,
yeah.
his new movie, No Other Choice with Lee Pyong-hun. Park Chan-wook is just he's one of those cerebral directors. We talked about it several times over the many episodes we had, right? You want to talk about an auteur theory, he has his auteur theory, right? Which is he's going to tell you a tale. You're going to have to help yourself really take in all the elements within this tale. I don't know. How about you? What's your favorite?
So I think, like most people, I learned of him through Old Boy, and
Yeah.
of course, Blown Away. Followed that up with the other two films in the Vengeance trilogy. What is it? Lady Death
Oh yeah.
and Vengeance for Mr. Sympathy. I want to say.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say I'm probably might be getting that slightly off, but I think the ones that really impressed me that I think people don't talk about as much is there's a vampire film he did. I want to say 2008 or nine called Thirst, which I really like a
Oh
lot because it's a really unique
yes.
take on a vampire film. That's really good. And one of the few times I was able to convince my friends to make a 45-minute trip. There's a local art, well, not local, but it's 45 minutes away. There's an art theater in the town of Red Bank, actually also the home of Kevin Smith's comic book shop and some other stuff. There's a theater there called the Algonquin Arts Theater, and they played Stoker, was his first American film, which had Nicole Kidman, Matthew Good, and Mia Wachowski. So I saw that one. That was the only of his film that I saw in theaters. So those three films, the Vengeance trilogy, Stoker, Thirst, The Handmaiden, are the ones that I'm familiar with. I have Joint Security Area on Blu-ray through Arrow. I have the Arrow video
Mm.
release of that. I still haven't seen that, and then I haven't seen, I guess, his first two films, which I guess he's not too proud of his earlier first two films. They came before Joint Security Area. He's like, I'd rather people not talk about them, but so I haven't seen those because those are hard to come by. I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to say he did a mini series in America for AMC. It's not Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Maybe it's the Tin. I can't think of the name of it, but it's on AMC. And the AMC channel was a mini series. The Little Drummer Girl, I think, or Little Drummer Boy, something like that. So that's my familiarity with him. But
Mm.
throughout my viewing of his films, what's interesting is every film has impressed me. And like I said, there are certain films that impress me more than others, but I've never walked away and been like, oh man, no, that was a waste of my time. I always took something away. I always felt like, wow, he had me really thinking this one. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
any filmmaker that makes you afterwards think about what you watched and really ponder it, and left something with you, I think it is an interesting storyteller. I'm going to get into a little bit of his history. So he gained notoriety initially for being a cinematography, framing, black humor, often brutal subject matter. And that definitely adds up if you've seen any of his films, because really pretty much all of his films deal with that to some degree. Even his more serious films have those elements. After two films that bombed in the 1990s, which Park largely disowned, Park rose to fame with his third film, Joint Security Area, in 2000, which became the biggest grossing film in South Korean history. Now, that I did not know when I was doing my homework. So now I definitely have to see this film because that's a pretty impressive feat when you think about it. And then he followed that up with what would become known as the Vengeance trilogy. And I think this one, at least in America, this is what really got people's attentions. And that started with Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance in 2002, which apparently that was a bomb. I didn't realize that was not well the box office. But Old Boy came out in 2003, and that was quite successful. And then he followed that up finally in 2005 with Lady Vengeance. And so I guess Lady Vengeance was a commercial failure, but Old Boy wasn't. Old Boy was successful. Park studied philosophy at Sogang University, and he joined the photography club and film club, originally wanting to be an art critic. And he saw a screening of Vertigo, and that turned things around, and that kind of inspired him to become a filmmaker. And when I think about it, that kind of adds up because when you see a lot of his shots, well, I wouldn't say he's ripping off Hitchcock. I could see how definitely he would be inspired by Hitchcock, as a lot of filmmakers were.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
After graduating, he went and he wrote articles on films for journals and soon became an assistant director. Then more directing credits, like I mentioned, Thirst in 2009, Stoker, which is his first English debut film, The Handmaiden in 2016, of course, Decision to Leave, and then, of course, the film you were just talking about, No Other Choice, which is coming out in October. I actually tried to get tickets to that because that was playing at the New York Film Festival. And let me tell you, basically, you put your name on the website and they put you on a digital waiting line. I waited for 4 hours, only to find out that, of course, and he had 3 screenings over the course of 3 days. 4 hours.
Come on!
They were all sold out. I was like, God,
Come on!
dude, that was me. I was like, I should have known better. I was on there at 12:01 p.m. and I still waited 4 hours.
Oh my
I mean,
Lord.
basically, what they did was you put your email in, you got an email when it was your turn. You had 10 minutes to pick up your tickets and do your business and be gone. But I was so hoping to get to see that film with him there for a Q&A because it's such a different experience if you ever get the opportunity to watch a film and then afterwards have a little Q&A session with the director, just because you're just getting insight that you're not going to get otherwise. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
oh well.
those are fun. Those are
Yeah,
actually
they're
fun.
all. Oh, and yes, to clarify, that miniseries they did for AMC is called The Little Drummer Girl. It came out in 2018. He also did a television show called The Sympathizer. He did 3 episodes of that in 2024. So
That was the South Vietnamese spy show, wasn't it? The
I
Sympathizer?
believe so. I don't know too much about it. I did see that listed under IMDb.com, but I wasn't familiar with it myself. Have you seen it?
I've heard of it. I'm a double check, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So when we move on to our cinematography, we have a Mr. Kim Ji Young. Whenever Jose's on, I feel like I'm with my English teacher, and I say that with love, Jose. Jose, I'll say, and then Jose will immediately correct it. And I'm like, Jose, are you sure maybe you shouldn't have been a lawyer and maybe you should have been like an English professor? Because you have the ability to pronounce everything properly. Well, I'm like the fucking butcher every fucking time I'm getting it. Not every time, but almost every time I'm getting it wrong. So this guy's done some interesting stuff, and some of his stuff I'm actually familiar with. He did a film in '05 called A Bittersweet Life, which I actually saw. That is actually a very good film. Another one that I've actually seen, which was really, really good, called The Age of Shadows. That came out in 2016. I eventually want to talk about that because that's an awesome film. Something called Holy Night, Demon Hunters. That came out this year. And
Don Lee.
oh, there you go. There you go. You got to watch it. It looked actually, the premise for it looked pretty cool. And I think it looks like something I would actually watch. I have not become part of the obsessed, and I probably should, but everybody talks about Squid Game. And apparently he did like 8 episodes of Squid Game. So.
Yeah, geez. That's kind of a little sore subject in my household right now.
Oh, you guys, you don't like
But
the season or just in general?
it's just, man, like I said, Koreans, we can be some mean MRFers when it comes to some stuff, man. And holy crap, I'm not trying to rip anything off, but you want to talk about emotional damage.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, this final season was just nuts. Check it out if you haven't. I think you
Yeah.
might enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I generally tend to like most of the Korean films that I've seen so far. I know, like I said, I know pretty much everyone that's seen at least the first season loved that first season, and then people tend to have mixed feelings on the other 2 seasons, from what I understand. But it's one of those things I have to get around to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this guy also, believe it or not, in '04 was awarded by the American Society of Cinematographers. He was awarded the ASC Heritage Award, which apparently in the world of cinematography is a pretty big deal. So just like our director, he's pretty prolific as far as his work goes in
Yeah, and
cinematography.
couple American films that he's done. They weren't the greatest, but he worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger and what the
Johnny
hell's it? John
Knoxville. I like
Knoxville,
that one. I
yeah,
like
the
that one.
Last Stand. I
Yeah.
thought visually it was a pretty cool. The story was, yeah, he's been around. He's well done. And I'm gonna play a little bit of my hand earlier.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved what he did in Decision to Leave.
Yeah, no,
Really,
the
really.
cinematography,
Wow.
visually, this movie is absolutely beautiful. It
Yeah.
really is. Moving on to our composer, we have a gentleman named Sho Young Wook. He did Joint Security Area, Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, The Attorney. Now, here's a movie, again, I want to talk about eventually, a Korean film that I actually saw in New York back in 2017 called The Taxi Driver, which is
Mm,
excellent. Very, very good film. I think the next film that you've actually talked about on one of the episodes, at one point you mentioned it as I think is one of the films that you've seen, The Gangster, the Cop, and the Devil. I thought you
yes.
mentioned that.
Oh yeah. Don
Cliff,
Lee. Don Lee.
as Troy and Brown would say, the Don Lee clause. It doesn't matter if it bombed or if it did well at the box office or it was a critical success. That's the one guy to get the free pass. They said they will talk about regardless, even though it does
Absolutely.
not fit in the format of the show. Uh, he did Cliff Walkers, and then also he's also working on the new film, No Other Choice. Moving on to our editing department, we have Kim Sang Byum, worked on Joint Security Area, a film called My Sassy Girl, against some other films with Park, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, Thirst. Another film that I think a lot of people should see, The Man from Nowhere in 2010. Again, Taxi Driver pops up. So, nice little career.
I'm gonna have to throw one definitively into that ring with
Yeah, absolutely.
so Kim Sung Poon was an editor on this movie. Man, I hate getting old. Memory's starting to suck. Ah, Fakulaka. He did a movie and he worked on a movie in 2002 called The Way Home.
Oh, yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
that's a good movie. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that movie truly inflicted some emotional damage
Mm-hmm.
because of number one, the story. Everything about that movie was I hate to say it was like a pure Korean movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the emotion to the shots to the writing to the acting, much respect. May she rest in peace to Yulbon Yulbon Kim.
Mm-hmm.
She plays the grandmother. The premise of this movie is a kid is being sent to live with his grandmother because his single mother just can't, deal with the current situation.
Mm-hmm.
She played the grandmother. I'm starting to get a little emotional now because she did such a phenomenal job. And the craziest part about this is she has never, ever seen a movie or TV show. This was her first role. Did fantastic. Yu Sung Ho, phenomenal job. But again, it's one of those rare movies that just, missing my mom and missing my grandmother, my homony. Um, it was just such a truly fantastic film where yeah you'll get the eye sweats. It's man, it's good. I had to throw that one in there, definitely.
Oh, thank you. Because, like I said, it's the thing is when you're covering, like when you're trying to write these down, and I'm trying to pick up like names that I'm familiar with, obviously, and especially when it comes to foreign films, you don't know. Like, let's face it. Like, I'll admit that I've watched plenty of Korean films, but that said, I'm not an expert by any means, so I don't know what people would be familiar with and what people wouldn't be familiar. I just try to pick the ones that I think either I'm familiar with at least, so therefore most people will be familiar with, or ones that I think have gotten some acclaim, or ones that I think that people might know of.
You know how it is, right? There's just some movies when you see
And
names and you see
yeah,
what they're attached to, it's like bam, I just got gut punched because of the and that's when you know a movie's really good. It's when as soon as you see a name, you see that title, it's like, oh gosh, I remember exactly how that movie made me feel.
yeah,
They did a great job.
yeah,
Absolutely. Oh
definitely.
gosh.
Awesome. Moving on to our writers, we have two writers. Obviously, the director is actually a writer on this. He's actually, interestingly enough, besides being a filmmaker, he has a pretty big thing. Like I said, he started off in cinematography. He also does at least co-write most of his scripts. So he did his first film, The Moon is the Sun's Dream in '92. He wrote that. Joint Security, he wrote the screenplay for. A film that Another film that nobody talks about. It's a cute little movie, kind of weird, called I'm a Cyborg, That's Okay. It came out in 2006. I like it. It's not the same tone as this type of film, or some of it's more like, it's not a typical Park film, but I think it's good. Obviously, Thirst, The Handmaiden, Uprising, a 2024 movie. I never actually heard of that one, but I guess he wrote that. He didn't direct it. Something for TV called Tempest. And obviously you can look on his filmography, you'll see it's a complete listing, but those are some things people might be familiar with. And then also we have another writer, Chung Seo Kyung. Hopefully I
Yep.
got that right.
Good.
Um,
Good.
all right, fingers crossed. See if I can get through a whole episode without completely butchering. She did stuff like Lady Vengeance in 2005, Family Matters in '06, Thirst, The Handmaiden, Little Women. I guess that was a TV show that came out in 2022. But it wasn't the American version because that's been done a million times. But I guess they did a Korean interpretation of that. I'm assuming it's based off of
Yeah,
the,
it
the
was.
original. The Truth Beneath, and also that Tempest TV series that I just mentioned. So that rounds out our writers, which brings us to our cast. Playing the main lead, we have Park Hae-yi. He's playing the role of Jang Hee-jun, and basically he's a police detective. He's been in stuff like Memories of Murder, The Host, which I love, War of the Arrows, The Fortress, and you got some other stuff you want to throw
No,
in?
I was gonna say, folks, War of the Arrows.
Yeah,
Definite recommend. Check that one out.
yeah, good stuff. Playing his life partner, his wife, Jung Yi Seo. We'll change that around here. Um, Playing the character Miji. She's been in stuff, not a ton of stuff, but she pops up. So here's a big one: Parasite. I mean, that won an Oscar 2019. She popped up on a TV show called All of Us Are Dead in 2022, and a film in 2020 called On July 7th. So he doesn't have a huge resume, but you get props alone just for Parasite. Um,
Absolutely.
she in this film, not to give too much away early, she's not in a ton of the film, so she doesn't have a ton to work with. But what she does have to work with, I think she does a pretty impressive job. I will say that much. Now, playing our main female lead, we'll say love interest, if you will, Tang Wei. She's playing the role of Seo Rei, who's a Chinese woman who's immigrated to South Korea. We'll get into that a little bit more as the story goes. Now, she has a pretty interesting filmography. She was in that movie Lust Caution, which came out in 2007. I remember that having a little bit of buzz when that came out. Um,
Got her
she,
in trouble.
oh, it did. I did not know that.
You did not know that? Oh yeah, so
I
she
think that
was
she
in
got
that
in trouble
movie.
for it.
Yeah, Lust Caution. Because of that, Chinese censors,
A
once
little
it finally came out there, they banned her. It was like a YouTube ban. She got banned in China for
shit.
a while. I think that happened back in shit.
Well, the movie came out in '07, so probably around that time frame, maybe
About, yeah,
'07
about
or '08.
2007 to 2008, I want to say for
Yeah,
sure. But yeah, it was wild. But she made a comeback, big
yeah,
time.
yeah. No, it's crazy, man. But then she shows up what's in a lot of interesting stuff. Like she shows up in Black Hunt in 2015, Monster Hunt, The Book of Love, The Whistleblower, and something called Wonderland. So she has a little interesting career. After the performance I saw watching this film, I am definitely curious to see more of her stuff because I think she's another one that's shown a lot of range in this film. Because this film, not to hint too much at what my thoughts are, they're showing a lot of emotions, not necessarily 100% in the dialogue, but just in their expressions, and how they're emoting things.
And
So
her, yeah, I think you mentioned it, Black Hat. That was her English debut with Chris Hemsworth. That was
yeah,
the hacking movie. I enjoyed quite thoroughly. It got a lot of hate because I didn't think hackers could look like Chris Hemsworth, but you'd be kind of surprised. So, but yeah, she's got range.
yeah, no, yeah, I was impressed, man. Now playing our lead's actual partner, Go Young Pyo. He's playing Soo Won, who's Detective Jang Hae's Jun's partner on the police force. He pops up in stuff like Jungle Fish and Two, which is a TV show, something called Man on High Heels in 2014, Coin Locker in 2015, Night of 7 Years in 2018, and a TV show called Connect. So again, not a guy that I see like a ton of stuff I'm familiar with, But some of that stuff it looks like is available here in the States, which is nice. Like that Connect show, I think is actually on maybe Netflix possibly or Hulu, and it looked pretty
possibly.
interesting. So,
Kyung Pyo was also, I think, one of the founding actors when they brought it over there for Korea's Saturday Night Live.
oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know they had a
yeah,
Korea Saturday Night Live.
yeah. It's crazy. Saturday Night Live Korea, I think it was called, or something like that. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would have assumed America being as greedy bastards, they probably wouldn't. They'd let them do something similar, but they wouldn't let them use
Well,
the
that's
name of the
why they let
property.
them do that because they're greedy.
Yeah, they probably got that big paycheck. All right. In a smaller role, but pivotal role, we have a gentleman named Park Chan-Wook who's playing Ho Shin. And he's been in stuff like Spirit Walker in 2020, The Warrior in 2001, something called Blood Rain in '05, and Hunter with a Scalpel. Now, that's a TV thing. The name alone says, okay, I got to see this one because Hunter with a Scalpel is just has a very definitive name. It's something that just strikes you, like just like a scalpel strikes you. Yeah, so that's our main cast. Now, obviously, there's probably some people I might have missed, but I wanted to focus on the main thing, the main cast, because this film has a lot of meat into it. And yeah, guys, I am going to spoil it because I feel like there's no way to really talk about this film and really get into it without spoiling it. So I am going to spoil some stuff. So just so everybody knows, if you are interested in watching this film and you haven't seen it, it's available on Mubi. It's available on Hulu. Obviously, it's available in physical format. It's definitely worth watching it, but I'm going to get into a lot of the meat of this film. So you've been warned.
No, I'm right there with you, but I do have to real quickly got to add one more name.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
see, I just had it right on to Kim Shin Young.
Okay.
She plays a supporting role in the second half, the I guess you could say the last chapter of this movie. She is a female comedian. She is actually very funny,
Oh,
and
yes, I know what you're talking about.
you know who I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
one of the things not a lot of people know is she is I forgot her rank, but she is a practitioner in the art of judo. So
Oh,
she
okay.
may be short, she may be funny, but she will kick your ass.
Well, at the end of the day, man, that's all that matters. Show people you can kick some ass and you
Yeah.
won't have problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
The
Sorry.
film opens up and we're introduced to Detective Jang Hee Jun. I'm going to just say Jang Hee and then a shortcut instead of doing the whole name from this point further. Jang Hee, I'm going to call him. He's an insomniac police detective who works in Busan and visits his wife once a week, who lives in Ipoh. So it's a long distance relationship. And, like I said, he's an insomniac. Hang Jun and his partner, Suwon, get assigned a case involving an immigration officer, Ki Jun. He was found dead at the foot of a mountain he climbed. Apparently, that was something he was passionate about. They interview his much younger wife, Sung Siu Rei, who is an immigrant from China who works as a caretaker for seniors. And right off the get go, they start to suspect that maybe she might have a connection to the death only because, I mean, listen, everyone grieves in different ways and I can respect that. I totally get that. But right off the get-go, she seems to not really show like your typical signs of grief in this situation. And let's face it, the way society looks at a much older man and a younger woman, because this guy looks like he's probably in his late 50s, possibly early 60s. And she looks like, I don't know, it's hard to tell, but she looks like she's late 20s, maybe early 30s, possibly. There's definitely a clear distinction in the age, but when you look at the two. So right off the get go, let's face it, that's the way society is. They're gonna think she's a gold digging bitch out for the money. But hey, listen, all right, the stereotypes, while they're not nice, sometimes there is something they're based off of. Not always. Sometimes. Us fucking Irish people were all a bunch of alcoholics, according to the way the world looks at us. And let's face it, a lot of us do like to drink. But we'll always be. I personally embrace the jokes and embrace the stereotypes. I don't take offense at it because why take offense at it? You know what I mean? Also because a scratch on her hands and bruises on her legs and torso and broken ribs and a tattoo of K's initial on her hands are also things that maybe would indicate possibly she might have been in a physically abusive relationship with this guy. And that also might be a reason why she'd be a prime suspect because let's face it, she would have motivation. Hae-jung continues to do further interviews with her, all the while doing nightly stakeouts at her apartment. He figures he has insomnia, so he might as well. While all this is going on, he kind of finds himself falling for her. Seo-rae takes notice of him on his nightly stakeouts and even witnesses him one day on one of his other investigations. Seo-rae's Monday client, because she takes care of old people, she goes to, and she's a caretaker, says Seo-rae was with her on the day her husband died, providing camera footage showing that she was there at the time of his death. Hae-jun finds out that Seo-rae killed her mother in China later on. But so he brings her in for questioning and further questioning, and he finds out that her mother was terminally ill. Basically, her mother requested that she off her mom. She killed her with fentanyl pills. And hey, listen, not to get into politics because this show isn't about politics, but I will say, listen, if I'm 90 something years old and I'm suffering and my quality of life has gone down the shitter, guys, by all means, if I have a partner or whether I'm single or regardless, if someone wants to off me, if I'm suffering, I'm not enjoying the quality of life, I'm all with her. Do me in, you know what I mean? Because if
Not me, not
he's
me.
like, I want to hold on. I want to hold on to the last. Listen, if I can't wipe my own butt and I have dementia, flush the button. Hit that button, man. Hit that end button. I don't want to be there if I can't enjoy life. I'm all with mom. But anyway, before dying, she tells Seo-rae, she says, go to Korea to climb the mountain. Her Korean grandfather, an independence fighter in Manchuria, had left her. I know that's pretty interesting. Not many people get left a mountain, but she has her own mountain. Seo-rae then proceeds to give Hae-jun letters written by Ki, her husband, admitting to corrupt business dealings, including a letter sent to a coworker that Hae-jun interprets as a suicide note. Hae-jun's partner still thinks that something with her is not 100% on the level. He said just things don't really seem to add up. It seems a little bit too convenient, but technically she's no longer a suspect. And, his partner kind of calls him out because he kind of gets the impression that there's something more than just a police officer, a detective, and a victim or a suspect, if you will. Just little things like when she's getting interrogated, he's interrogating her, and they're stopping for lunch, and his partner notices that she's got the deluxe lunch. And he's like, she's got the deluxe lunch? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's stupid, but like little moments like that, where he's like, oh, it went all out with me. It went all out on the lunch when it came to the hot broad. So Seo-rae and I'm gonna just call her Seo, just shorten it, and Hae-jun go on a few dates, getting closer, visiting each other's homes, and like I said, you can tell there's some chemistry. One day at Hae-jun's apartment, Seo sees a wall hidden behind a curtain, and in that wall you have a bunch of photos and stuff like that. And they're obviously photos that are like from crime scenes and stuff like that. And of course, she's automatically like, what's that all about? And he's like, basically, it's just kind of like, these are all the unsolved cases that I have. I have insomnia. I can't sleep. So this is just something that kind of helps me. It gives me something to do. And it's just a reminder of the stuff that I wasn't able to solve, And basically, she's okay with that until she sees the ones from her husband's death. And basically, that's when she gets a little upset, and she actually like burns the photos. And she's like, "Oh well, why not? The case is resolved, right? I'm innocent, so why do you need those here?" And I think he's a little bit taken aback by that, to put it politely. But I guess let's face it, when you're smitten with someone, sometimes you may forgive things that in another world logically you would not forgive, or that you wouldn't go, okay, yeah, now fine, let it go. Your brain sometimes detaches from the ability to make logical decisions.
To which I will say, if there's anybody in the audience watching this episode and you're in law enforcement, don't care who they are, you don't
Yeah,
let them burn potential evidence, okay?
yeah. I
There's your
mean,
public service announcement.
I would also, and again, I don't know enough about Korea, but I would imagine this is where there's some leaps in fantasy, if you will, in the sense that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it happens both American and in Korea, but I can't imagine someone having in their apartment a whole wall of evidence and photos just dedicated. Even if you are an insomnia, I feel like maybe that would be a professional thing, like a professional line that's crossed, like bringing home like evidence. I mean, not like the stuff that's in bags they found at the crime scene, but even photos, like a whole wall, like dedicated to like.
Yeah.
Again, I could be wrong. I don't know anything about law enforcement, but it doesn't seem like it seems like there's that's where there a little bit of fantasy is projected into the film.
Yeah, it's entirely possible, but like you, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I
I
don't know
haven't.
enough about law
Yeah,
enforcement,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Thankfully, we do not. Thankfully, we do not know about law enforcement
Yeah.
in Korea, unlike a certain streamer who's in deep doo doo. But anyway.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about there. So from there, cut to Hey Jun goes to visit Seo Ray at the home of one of her clients. Now, what's interesting about this is her Monday client. Now, where this becomes relevant is her husband died on a Monday. And he realizes they both have the same model cell phone. And at first, he doesn't think too much about that. Um, but then he also realizes the client has dementia and doesn't even know what day it is. So, you do the math. The client has dementia. They have the same model cell phone. And, like I said, there are certain things that are now starting to add up in his brain. On the client's phone, he sees that apparently the woman apparently walked the distance of 138 flights of stairs on the day of Key's death. Again, this person is an older lady who obviously is not capable of that. She basically makes a joke about how she hasn't left her house in 10 years. So again, the math starts to add up, and it doesn't. Something seems array, if you will. Haejun starts to piece things together, realizing that Seo Ray switched phones with her client. It's the only logical thing that would make sense of the 138 flights of stairs equivalent. And later that night, he confronts Seo Ray in his apartment, concluding that she forged the suicide note and accuses her of getting too close to him intentionally to destroy the evidence. Because in his mind, he's a detective, and that obviously would make sense. Haejun is very upset, claiming she has destroyed. Haejun is upset, claiming that she has destroyed his pride, the pride that he takes in his job, and he feels betrayed. But he said that he has covered up the evidence and tells her to throw the phone into the sea before leaving. So, he knows he's doing the wrong thing, but he also knows that he has feelings for her. And I think logically, he probably looks at it like, okay, besides the feelings, if I had all of a sudden admitted that she burned photos and, I'm getting close to her, and then there's a lot of evidence that would also probably put him in a bad situation and probably his career in a bad situation. So he's not doing the right thing here, obviously, folks, but you could kind of almost weirdly kind of rationalize it. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, cut to a year later. Obviously, any relationship he had with Seo Ray is kind of really, romantic relationship is kind of off the books at this point. Haejun has moved to Ipoh to live with his wife, Jung Han. He figures might as well fix this relationship, so he thinks. And their relationship is kind of back on track. He's still having problems with insomnia. He's still having some of the same issues. But one day at a fish market, he runs into Seo Ray with her new husband, who, of course, is a wealthy business investor, Mr. Ho Shin. The next day, surprisingly enough, Ho Shin is found dead in a swimming pool. So we're starting to see a pattern with this lady. Dead mom, dead husband, dead second husband. You do the math, people. Math wasn't my specialty. I was more of an English kind of guy.
That's a lot of coinky dinks.
Yeah, a lot of coinky dinks. So Haejun is sent to investigate, and right off the get-go, let's face it, he's burnt because of her behavior towards him, and he feels betrayed. So he's already not in the mindset to believe anything she has to say. Again, the math doesn't add up. He's convinced she is the killer. I mean, some things right off the get-go. He goes there, and his body's found. Ho Shin's body's found in a pool. But what's interesting is the pool is drained, And what she says is she did that as a convenience to the detectives so they wouldn't have to see the bloody mess that's in the pool. Now, I'm not a police detective, but here's what I will tell you, not being a police detective at all. These guys, well, I'm sure it still hurts their feelings when they see this stuff. At a certain point, it's just like people that go to war. At a certain point, if you're in the middle of a war zone and people are firing at you, you got to get used to just seeing dead bodies. You have to come to terms with the fact that seeing dead bodies is something that you're going to encounter on a pretty frequent basis, especially a detective. So again, more reason for this not to make any sense. Say Chi Sung, a Chinese immigrant, the next day confesses to killing Ho Shin for cheating his late mother out of several $1,000,000. Say clarifies that Seo Ray had nothing to do with the murder. He installed a tracker, excuse me, I can make words, on Seo Ray's phone so he could find out where Ho Shin lived, and then he went ahead and murdered Ho Shin. Cut to Hae-jun confronting Seo Ray. He goes to call her when he finds out this, and we find out she's at the mountain of that her grandfather left her, and she's getting ready to, I guess, get rid of the ashes of her grandfather. They have a confrontation. She rushes at him, and we think, in that moment, I'm thinking, oh, here she's going to go off this guy too, but only to give him a hug. She reveals she kept the phone from Key's murder, her first husband, with incriminating evidence, and proposes he investigate her. Instead, they kiss, and Hae-jung returns home to find out that now that Hae-jung suspects him of having plotted with Seo Ray to murder Ho Shin, and she's leaving him because she, at this point, she already dealt with a long distance relationship. She already dealt with this guy being an insomniac. She's tired of his shit, and she thinks he's really just not a good partner. So we cut to the next day, and Hae-jung learns from Sa, that his new police partner, that Seo Ray has visited Sa's mother in the hospital on the very day that she died. Basically, he's able to conclude that Seo Ray has slipped Sa's mother fentanyl. Go figure, she killed her own mother with fentanyl. So we're starting to see a pattern here. She knowing Say would kill Ho Shin after that. So basically, we're setting up motive. This guy, this Ho Shin, this guy Say, he already obviously doesn't like Ho Shin. He finds out that his mother was killed. He thinks it's by Ho Shin, so he goes and proceeds to kill Ho Shin. Hae-jun, tracks Seo Ray's phone using the tracker that Seiya installed, and chases her to a beach. And they have a phone call over while he's trying to track her at this beach. And she tells him that Ho Shin discovered a phone recording of Hae-jun telling Seo Ray that he loved her, and that Ho-jin had planned to expose her illicit relationship. Hae-jun does not recall telling Seo Ray that he loved her, and she says she began loving him the moment he stopped loving her. Seems a little bit toxic, but okay, I'll go with it. At the beach, he finds her empty car and her cell phone with recordings of his instructions to Seo Ray to destroy the cell phone, with evidence from Key's case. Further out, we cut to, on the shore, we see Seo Ray, and she's digging a pit in the sand, and she climbs into it. And as the tide rises, letting it drown and bury her. Now, we don't see that, so it's alluded to. We see Hae-jun frantically searching the beach and crying out in anguish, but he's never able to find Seo Ray. And that's essentially our film. Now, there's a lot of meat to this film, and obviously, even though I did spoil the hell out of this film, you're still going to be able to take away a lot from this film by watching it yourself. And obviously, like I said, it's available very readily on Hulu. And if you also are into art films and foreign films, it's also available on Mubi. So both of those are streaming services as well as physical media. What are your thoughts, man? You picked this film. And before I get into my thoughts, I'm going to hear what you have to say.
Number one, I think you did a fantastic job
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
summarizing the movie, because while there was a lot of detail, folks, it doesn't even really begin to scratch the surface of this movie.
Oh, there's a lot of layers.
Park Chan-wook, gosh, this is another movie that is. Let's take it as a stark contrast to Old Boy, right? Old Boy was very visual and visceral, right? whereas Decision to Leave is very methodical and cerebral. It is kind of like a play on, and it's through a lot of the characters you actually see this, right? It's the yin and the yang. One of the dialogue lines was, what is it? A wise man enjoys the seas, a kind man enjoys the mountains. It's a yin and yang, right? A duality. And in this movie, Song Soo is she is, as she says in herself in this movie, right? She's the sea, right? Sea is kind of at times calm, at times chaotic, at times bountiful, and at other times destructive. So it's kind of a sense of her actual character, whereas Heijun is of the mountains, right? Stoic, kind, doesn't display a lot of emotion because he can't be moved by emotion a lot of times. But it's that yin and yang between those two characters that really, from the beginning to the end, really come out. Now, before going any further, the only thing I can really say is if my mom were still around, she would have said Detective Hagen was what we call, or what she used to call me, a Pyeongchan, pure idiot, pure idiot. I won't tell you guys why my mom called me that, but it is.
I have a feeling there's a bunch of stories that accompany that.
Oh yeah. When you take the story of Haejun and Song Sore, it is, what do you do for love? What will you do out of love? What will you do to earn somebody's love? Song Sore, when we're introduced to her and we see that her husband has fallen off the side of a mountain. We see her in the police department being interviewed, right, and being checked out. And this is a woman who's been like truly battered, bruising, broken bones. Even hell, she was tattooed as if she was property, which kind of makes you start thinking, well, damn, maybe he deserved it, right? He may have. But Hey Jun, and with his wife living in Ipoh, and again he's in Busan, it's again, Ipoh is a mountain town, more of a mountainous town.
Yeah,
Busan is more of a coastal town that is kind of like in between mountains and the sea, right? So it's kind of again that dynamic, right, of yin and yang. Even between him and his wife, you can see that there's still that duality, right, of his wife wanting him to change, right? Stop smoking. Oh gosh, I smell cigarette smoke on you. Hold on, I'm going to call this herbalist, and we're going to get you some of this root, and it's going to help you quit smoking.
yeah,
He's more of a mountain guy, right? You're not going to really change a lot, right?
yeah,
Or at least he won't show that. He won't be moved quite a bit. The interesting aspect is, Tong Wei, she did a phenomenal job. I thought in this movie because she truly plays the victim really well.
yeah,
Very much a manipulator. It is kind of wild how the manipulation, the ruse, the conniving, diabolical mind she kind of has is revealed throughout the movie. Now, I may have given away a little bit too much with even that sentence, but when you contrast it to Heijun, who is supposed to be this, by the book detective, he yells at his partner, Sungwoo, about, why do you need a gun? If you're not going to use the gun, why do you even carry it?
yeah,
This is what we're supposed to do. Huh, huh, huh. But again, as my mom would say, he's being a Pyeongchan, right?
yeah,
He's being a true idiot about the things because once she's in the picture, oh, it's a total flip of the script,
yeah,
right? Like you said, you mentioned the sushi, right? He talks to his wife about, I'll make dinner. She's like, well, why don't we have sushi? He's like, I only want sushi on special occasions and only from this one special place. So for Song Sore, he goes out and gets her this damn sushi. It's like you're in an interrogation room and you're treating it like it's a damn first date.
yeah. Right off the get go, he's falling.
Pyeongchan,
Yeah,
Pyeongchan. And I apologize because I'm trying because there is again Park Chan-Wook. This is a cerebral film, right? That there's just so much again, not only from the dialogue, but like as you said, dialogue through motion, dialogue through action,
Manner.
dialogue through scenery
Yeah.
to take in. So let me just sum it up and get towards a summation. Song Sure, as you said, ends up at the beach. The steps that she took to bring Detective Hagen to the beach, which again, and this is where I'm going to talk more about, as a cerebral and the scenery, right? They're at the beach, ocean, right? But the beach is also off of like a kind of a cliffside. There's like lots of boulders, and in the background you will see kind of like a mountain island, right? So there's that scenery, folks, that yin and yang, seas and mountain, and how she has um, I guess you could say, left Hagen with a little bit of longing. Man, you want to talk about an effed up ending that we talked about in freaking Sleep Tight? This damn near comes close,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Damn near comes close in the sense that, man, the way the ending is framed, that she wants him to remember because based on his own words as an insomniac, he doesn't sleep because he can't close the cases, right?
Yeah.
This is how she is going to do. She does something that basically creates that same exact scenario. So he is always going to remember. And I guess you could say the icing on that cake was she literally seals it with a kiss.
Yeah.
Okay. The character development, the characters throughout. I mean, again, from Sang Sore, Heijun, all the way even to, the ailing grandmother. It's a layer. Gosh, how do you best describe it, right? All these characters are like the numbers on a clock. No matter what, no matter where the hands are pointing, it all comes back to one thing, right? There's a specific point in time that they play a part of in this story. It all kind of ties together within this story. Even when you're talking about Kim Shin Young, she is, this lack of a better term, she's a try-hard police officer trying to get in good with Hagen. He like rebuffs her. He's like, "Why are you asking me all these questions instead of asking the suspects?" Right. So he's trying to play this straight and narrow, but then, she takes him to a robbery scene where it's like a heist of the century, right? It's like a Korean Ocean's 11, except they're fucking turtles, right? But it's a big thing. It's a big thing because once she realizes the value, she's like, "What, really? That much for turtles?" She even plays a part within this story, right? So
Yeah. Absolutely.
so let me get to the best part of this movie, right? It is actually the visuals, right? The opening of this movie, you see the crime scene as anyone normally would from the outside in, right? But again, going back to the cinematography of this film, they actually show a shot of from the victim's eyes, literally,
Yeah.
meaning there's a shot
Of the
that
eye, it's just like,
replicates the eye, but you see ants crawling on it.
yeah. The fuck. That's like
I,
I already seen that in like a horror movie, man. Like
I
that's yeah,
right?
that's fucking creepy as fuck. Yeah.
It's creepy as hell. I mean, as I would say, if when I saw it, I was like, I goo, what the hell are they just doing here?
There's just certain things that like shouldn't bother as much because it really is just an insect crawling on an eye. But it's not like when someone's guts have been ripped out, but yet that's more striking to me than seeing a horror movie where someone's guts are all over the place.
Right, because the premise is we've seen that before, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
guts, the
yeah,
disemboweling. We've seen that
yeah,
before. But to see looking up from the perch from the
yeah,
cliffside to which you have just perished and there's ants crawling on it, never seen that before. Oh, I hate goo.
yeah, yeah. No,
Wow, that
just
was great.
yeah,
A lot of the shots where Hey Jin is being put, it like it does the push pan, like in Jaws when Roy Scheider is at the beach and all of a sudden you see it closes up, but the background goes away, pulls that effect. But guess what? All of a sudden he's in the apartment, right? He's following Song Saray as he's watching her. A lot of the dialogue, some of the visuals, where like you mentioned, that was a great setup. When he realizes that they have the same phone,
yeah,
so he's scrolling through it, but it's like instead of seeing your reflection in your phone as you're going through it, he's actually inside the phone with the numbers overlaid on top of him. Like he's
Yeah.
diving into
The phone.
what the phone has for him, right? The mountainside, the seaside, I think Park Chan-Wook talked about that actually in an interview. For those who don't know, there is, it's not quite a religious thing, but there's a lot of spirituality in Korean culture, right? And mountains are a big deal. But then again, the yang to that would be the sea, to which I do appreciate that they talked about the women divers, because little side note fact, in Korea there is a, oh gosh, I can't, wish I remembered the name. There is a little hamlet, or a little section of within Korea where it's exclusively women divers, right?
Oh,
Like hold your breath and they go down to dive and harvest like abalone, some other shellfish, and it's exclusively women. So it was interesting to see that aspect of Korean life, Korean culture comes into play when they were actually looking for some evidence and they find a phone that they were like would help like kind of break this wide open. When the young detective comes up and it's like, Detective Hagen, do you think they can restore this? And it's the phone that's been sitting
yeah.
at the bottom of the ocean.
And what's amazing to me is, because I'm not a techie guy, is the fact that they were able to restore the damn phone, even though it
Yeah,
was underwater. To me, that's just mind-boggling
yeah,
that they have the technology nowadays to be able to do something that God knows how many days have been sitting underwater. But hey, even if it was sitting underwater for 3 hours, the fact that they were able to restore it, that's just, to me, that's
right.
mind.
To which I think, it's possibly like, a little paid advertisement.
Yeah.
Buy Samsung phones. We can sit at the bottom of the ocean for 3 days and still work.
And still work.
It's
Yeah. Yeah,
great.
seriously.
But, to wrap it all up, right? This was a movie I was not expecting. I watched it with the wife, and we were very intrigued, right?
Mm,
We kind of said we were kind of walking through it, kind of walking through the events, and we had our theories and theorems. We had our gut feels about what was true, what wasn't true. After the end of the movie, none of that mattered. What mattered was how Song Sure ended ended her relationship with Detective Hae Jun. It was wild. It
yeah.
was really wild that how that movie really ends. And as it ends, the summation of the scenery, the yin and the yang, the sea and the mountains, really, draws the curtains to a close. That once it was done, I'm sitting there going, how does Park Chan-Wook really make me sit here all this time and love this movie, hate this movie, love this character, hate that character, love all the characters, because of what it did to me, right?
Yeah.
At the end, it had me, basically looking at my wife. I'm like, if you ever do that to me, I'm just gonna have to accept it, because I'd be like, hey, Jun, I couldn't do anything about it.
Come back from the
That's
dead and haunt you. That's
You know what
all.
I mean? That's about it. That's about it. Because again, the character of Song Sure, I guess, plays that old adage, right? Don't believe everything you see,
Yeah.
because holy wow. Um, 9 out of 10 for me on this one, buddy. Nine
Yeah.
out of 10. What do
Yeah.
you think? Which what
I,
is this? So
you
this is
know,
a first time. This is like a first time watch for you again, right?
yeah. So
All right.
I started it before I went to work a couple days ago, and I couldn't finish it, so I just restarted it. I actually restarted it this morning, and I watched it from beginning to end finally. And I'm not going to lie. So on the very first, and I got through almost all of it except for like the last 10 minutes. The very first time I watched it, I appreciated it. I liked it. I saw a lot of, the things that we would love and expect from Park Chan-Wook, which is like, technical filmmaker, great storyteller. He always associates himself with a great, group of actors and a great cast. But I'm not gonna lie, I was, and in all fairness, the first time I watched it, I didn't watch the last 10 minutes of it. I was getting annoyed with the um the Seal Red character. I was like, this fucking, is just a manipulative, like there's nothing else. I mean, don't get me wrong, Obviously, Hung Jae-yoon, he's not Mr. Perfect either. He has his problems, but she is just a, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm reliving my last American version of the episode where like the last, you pretty much is John's review. The last 5 minutes of John's review is John just and you hitting the E button because that's all. Well, you know. So on the second viewing, like I'm not gonna lie, there's still a large part of me that feels that way. But hey, listen, the story is crafted so well. It's a master class when it comes to storytelling, especially in manipulation. It's a beautiful film. I mean, it really is a beautiful film. The characters are all well written. It's shot really well, and it keeps you glued to your seat the entire time. I'm going to do something I try not to do. When I compare it to some of his other films, I still like it a lot. I don't love it, but I do like it a lot. I like it a lot. It's borderline between like and love. And the only reason I don't love it, and again, this is unfair to the film, is just because by the time I get to the end, I know that it's a great story. I know it's beautifully written. I know the characters are interesting and compelling, and I know there's this yin and yang relationship, like you said, the calm detective, but he's being manipulated, even though he knows he shouldn't be. And then you have this woman that's clearly manipulating him the entire time. While she's compelling and she's fantastic, she did kind of like grate on me. And I get that's part of what she's the character, you know what I mean? That means she's doing her job very well. But and it just bothered me so much that this, pardon my French, this bitch couldn't be happy. Okay, so the old guy abused you. Okay, so instead of reporting him, you pushed him off a fucking cliff. Okay, whatever. I got that. Okay, so then you have a chance with this guy that actually you seem to have chemistry with, but no, you're just manipulating him, and you don't fall in love with him until after he calls you out of your bullshit. That's when you fall in love with him, supposedly, and then she fucking marries a guy clearly for money. And of course, she sets up a scenario where the guy is murdered, not by her, but by someone else that is out and has a vendetta against this guy. She's this character that's very well written and she's very well acted. That girl has tons of talent, Seo Ray, the actress. And, you know, I really have a lot of good things to say about the film. And because it is really, really well written. The motives of the characters are interesting. I guess it's the hopeful optimist in me, and I should know better because it's a Park Chan-Wook film. I was just hoping for some sort of scenario, even if she wasn't innocent, you know, because halfway through the film we find out she's not innocent. But I was still hoping that there'd be something where like they find a way to connect. And I guess maybe that's what makes the film interesting is this bittersweet ending where they don't connect because at the end of the day, she seems like she's only interested in her own interest. I don't think she has the ability. I don't know if she has the ability to love someone genuinely. Because if you think about like, you know, the only person I think she genuinely loved was her mom because I think that was a mercy kill. Her mom was suffering. But these other men in her life, it doesn't seem like she has the ability to. And that might be tied into the whole psychology, this idea of abuse. Maybe she just doesn't have she doesn't have the ability to love someone in that way. I don't know. So that was the one thing that I just had a hard time wrapping my head around. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's nothing against her as an actress. She acted beautifully in the role that she was given, and the film is really, really good. And I'm sure if I watched it again, I'd probably go from like to love. But that character, man, just by the time I got to the end, it was an amazing ending. It absolutely was an amazing ending.
Yeah.
And the fact that you don't actually see her like die, you see her get in the pit and you see the waves coming, but you don't really actually show her there's a possibility. I don't think there's a good possibility, but there is a possibility that she might have, again, be setting things up. It still might be more manipulation. I don't know. Overall, really, really solid film. As usual, Park Chan-Wook, I don't think he's capable of making a bad film. Now, he doesn't like those first two films he made, but everything I've seen by this man is just wonderful. And even this film, like I said, is absolutely wonderful. You know, he definitely knows how to tell a story. He definitely knows how to pick the right people to work with. And this film really, really works. And the only reason, like I said, I have some issues with it, or not the film, it's my own inability to get past this character and what I would call character flaws. Now, I call them character flaws as a person, but that doesn't mean they're character flaws within the character. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's my own personal issues with someone like that. But it also lends itself to good storytelling. I can't slight the film because I don't personally like the shit she put this guy through. Now I'm not saying
Right.
he's innocent either. By the way, obviously he should be a professional, and along the ways he made a lot of unprofessional decisions and made a lot of bad judgments because he was falling for this girl. So I'm not,
Junction.
yeah,
Junction.
I'm not giving him like this free pass as this innocent man that was just like run through obviously there were a
Yeah.
lot of mistakes, but yeah, so that's where I land with this one. Overall, really, really, really like it a lot.
Yeah.
But
And
again, my own personal issues with the character. While I love the film, that's the one thing that just like, oh man, I just this fucking.
sorry for
No, no,
interrupting,
no,
but
by all means.
I just wanted to kind of see if you were kind of where I am at, right? Which
Yeah,
was I felt the same way after my first time,
yeah,
having seen this, right? Because seeing how Song Sude acts and does, and her character, period. The first question that came into my mind after the movie was done, I'm like, what's up with Hey Jin?
yeah,
Why,
yeah,
why? It's something Park Chan-Wook does as well, right? The storytelling, again, because it's a cerebral film, right? He actually, by the end, not only are you kind of feeling it after you're seeing it, but he's making you think why, you
yeah,
know why, right? So not only did Song Sure mess with Heijin's head, but here's Park messing with our heads at the end of it.
yeah.
I don't know, if you ever kind of saw that point of view or thought about that.
No, absolutely. Like after I'm watching it, dude, like I'm still like as I'm watching it, like I said, the first time I watched all but the last 10 minutes. And the second time I watched it entirely through. That was this morning. And I'm still like honestly, and I get different people think in different ways, and some people are more devious than other people's. I'm still trying to understand as a person her character's motives. Like again, I get mom. I even though I think legally she could have left her husband, even though they at one point say that she threatened to have him he threatened to have her immigrated back to China. So I could see her being scared and reacting in a certain way, but I don't know if murder was the answer. Again, if you're scared, sometimes you make bad choices. Even with that rationalization for killing that character, and then moving on after the fight with Hey June and realizing that's not going to come into fruition, marrying a rich guy who she obviously does not like and she did not marry for love, and then manipulates a way for him to die. I'm still going, okay, throughout all that, like, still, like, what are you doing? Did she kill herself because at this point, Hey June found out that she gave fentanyl to Sa's mother and that she was going to be brought into jail? Did she ever at any point actually have any real connection with Hey June? Because you want to believe that. Or was this just a master class in manipulation from a nut job? And I don't want to believe that because if it's a master manipulation and from a nut job, what's the point of that? Because all you're ending up at the end of the movie is you end up with a girl that we think, again, they don't show the waves coming crashing in her in this pit of sand, but we make that assumption as a viewer. So then if it's ultimately ending in you killing yourself, what's the point of manipulating all these other events up to this point?
Right.
Unless you're like bipolar, no offense to people that are bipolar, or you're homicidal, or like, are you going to pull up the like, I was abused and my brain is broken and that's why I did these things? Like, and I'm not trying to be harsh on the character. I'm honestly saying these things out loud to both you and to our audience, maybe our audience that have seen this film, because I'm trying to understand the thought process behind this character.
Right.
Because if I'm reading a book or a comic book, a novel, or I'm watching a movie, and I'm watching something told by a master storyteller, I really do want to understand Now, don't get me wrong, certain books, comic books, films leave you open to interpretation, and that's also really interesting. One of my favorite films is Memento, and that ending again is such a hits you over the hammer of the head and leaves a lot of questions unanswered, a lot of things open to not a lot of questions unanswered, but leaves a lot of things open to interpretation. And then this isn't a bad thing. This isn't a bad thing that I'm asking myself, like you said, I'm asking myself all these questions and I'm trying to figure it out because it gets your brain processing things. But I definitely think it's an excellent film, really fine film. But like I said, I would recommend anything in Park Chan-Wook's filmography. And I don't think you're going to walk away disliking it. And that's what's another sign of a master storyteller filmmaker. If you can walk away from seeing their stuff, and even if you maybe have a minor quibbles with certain things, you still think it's a pretty damn good achievement, then you've made a pretty good product. You put something out to the world. So that's my long, bloated answer to your, what do you think of the film? This film is definitely a great film. Like I said, it's borderline on a film I love. And it's definitely a film I thank you for picking because I hadn't gotten around to this one yet. And it's one I definitely would recommend to people. I definitely think it's one worthy of watching. So that wraps up today's episode, guys. Next week, we're going to be talking about a Norwegian film. And I almost didn't pick this film because, unfortunately, this film, it's not available on any streaming service, which is really annoying. You can pick it up on Amazon brand new for $10, or you can pick it up on Amazon used for maybe $7 or $8. It's annoying because this film doesn't even have a trailer on YouTube that has English subtitles. The film, a Norwegian film called Buddy, put out by a company called Film Movement. Film Movement's an interesting company. They originally were a company on their own, and they were basically independent films, foreign films, basically a subscription service where you got a film every month. And also a short film. And then eventually they were bought up, or they partnered with Vinegar Syndrome. And this film, like I said, is a film from a Norwegian film, and it's a really interesting film. I think it's definitely one that people are going to like. I won't share my thoughts because I'll share that on our next episode. But it's definitely worth checking out. You could probably watch the trailer and kind of get an idea even without the subtitles, but I'm still annoyed that they don't have subtitles in the fucking trailer. It's so stupid. But before we head out, we'll give a shout out to a podcast you guys should be listening to. I will start off with good old Brad and Troy over at Not a Bomb. Each week they take a look at films that were either critical or a commercial failure. This week, I believe they talked about the original Magnificent Seven. Great episode. Good movie. Definitely check that out. Of course, we have Watch Skip Plus with Jose and Mike, and they just dropped an episode today, and they talked about The Long Walk, and they get into a really great discussion about that film. And again, guys, while that's still in theaters, just do yourself a favor, check it out, because apparently, again, not to get into politics, but apparently the film did not do very well at the box office. People are speculating part of the reason that is because Stephen King had some things to say because he is an outspoken person, and they're thinking that might have affected the box office. I also think it might just have to do with the fact that it's a movie that's violent, dealing with gun violence, and right now that's a hot topic. But again, I'm not getting into political stuff. I just want to mention that. But yeah, I saw that film, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode. I definitely think it's worth checking out. So that's Jose and Mike over at Watch Skip Plus. Of course, we got Sam and Will over at the Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, the guys that inspired everything. These guys are always showing some interesting stuff. I believe the film they showed last week was called Stranger on a Lake, maybe. They're covering queer cinema. They're covering 3 episodes with our good buddy Jose. So Jose was on that for last week's episode, and I believe he's going to be on the next 2 episodes. So check out the Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema. Of course, we have Rob and Joe with Caliber 9 from Outer Space. Rob and Joe are always bringing it to the table, are always giving us 2 great features, and the conversation is always great. They're always making me laugh, always having a good time. I was supposed to be on their show a couple weeks ago to record, but unfortunately I had to cancel due to some unfortunate stuff that popped up. But they're great guys. I'm hoping to get them on sometime in the next couple months. Always a blast when they're on. And then finally, of course, we have Raiders of the Podcast with our buddies Kevin, Tyler, Dave, and Craig. And again, they're another double feature format, and they're always covering interesting films. They always have an eclectic selection of films, and they're all worth checking out, guys. Oh, also, real quick, Death by DV with Harry Scott Sullivan. He's on a hiatus, but he has a wonderful back catalog of films. I just listened to an older episode he did. He re-edited it and re-released it about a week or two ago on the film The Swimmer from the 1960s with Burt Lancaster. And that's another one of those films, if you haven't seen, guys, real quick, do yourself a favor, check it out. It's absolutely wonderful. And if you like what you're listening to right now, despite my mispronouncing pretty much almost every name, hit that subscribe button. Tell us what you think. And if you really love us, guys, and you have a minute, hit that share button, man. It only takes 30 seconds to hit that share button and share it on your Facebook feed, share it on your Instagram. Let people know. We're helping, we're trying to build an audience. Mr. Korean Cool is doing a wonderful job with our editing. We're really having a blast doing this show. So thank you guys again for all your support, all your love, and thank you for listening. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.